What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Awakening World. It's our Wednesday night edition, and we've got a really great show tonight. We're going to hear from Danny Sheehan, who is the man. We'll talk about, do a little introduction for him. We are going to see a pre-recorded video with Neil Donald Walsch and Steve Farrell. And then we've got a couple of really incredible programs that were provided to us by our friends at Humanities Team. But most of all, my good buddy Alan Steinfeld is here.
Hey, Scott.
When we're doing anything around what's happening with UFO, UAP, making contact, it is Mr. Making Contact, Alan Steinfeld, who's got to be with us. So, Alan,
it's always good to make contact with you, Scott, because I think we're almost like 40 years, our friendship, isn't it?
We're getting close. We're getting close to the 40-year mark.
We practically grew up together, I know. But no, so much is happening in the UFO world. It is ablaze with information. And like you said, we're coming up this Sunday to UFO Global Disclosure Day. And Danny Sheehan's going to talk all about that. And we're going to comment on that because we're moving closer to the goalpost. We haven't scored the touchdown yet, but the way is clearing for truth to finally be revealed, hopefully.
Absolutely. So we're going to hear from Danny. Alan and I are going to comment. We're going to hear your comments. Welcome Ashley Pfeiffer, a new and wonderful person. I've been wanting her to be on the show for a while.
Yes.
So, Ashley, she's awesome.
Yes.
But we always start with music. And we are very blessed to have Mr. Omar Shah with us. So,
yes, that would
brother.
be me. And I'm excited. This is a duplicitous show tonight between New Realities and Humanities Team. And I'd like to welcome everybody who is watching on Alan Steinfeld's YouTube channel, or is it Facebook? And Facebook and YouTube, and of course Humanities Team. And here's a song called Contemplate, because we have a lot to contemplate right now, right? I think we do. Contemplating everything I knew. Seems as though there's not much left that I would hold on to. contemplating what is pure and true. Sun and moon and stars and light and earth and water too. We are rising, soaring, flying, living life so free. We are flowing, changing, growing, loving all we see. Glad to know we're coming home again. Open hearts and open doors and open minds and loving friends. Look at the one who's standing by you now. Destiny is in our hands, so leave the density behind. 'Cause we are rising, soaring, flying, living life so free. We are flowing, changing, growing, loving all we see. Turning to the face of those who need the light of truth, to help them turn the other cheek and turn around. We lift each other up into the highest point of view, so that together we can move to higher ground. Contemplating everything I knew, seems as though there's not much left that I would hold on to. Glad to know we're coming home again. Open hearts and open minds and open doors and loving friends. 'Cause we are rising, soaring, flying, living life so free. We are flowing, changing, growing, loving all we see. Turning to the face of those who need the light of truth, to help them turn the other cheek and turn around. We lift each other up into the highest point of view, so that together we can move to higher ground. Contemplating everything I knew, seems as though there's not much left that I would hold on to.
But somehow we're hearing somebody else is playing it on. Somebody's got to mute. You
How
gotta-
interesting is that? Must be like a huge interstellar space loop.
Exactly. But it's your multi-dimensional self.
Well, it's the fact
In
that
the
Alan's with
ultimate
us.
reality.
When Alan is with us, we have every dimension tuning in, and so here we are.
That's right. That's right. And speaking of other dimensions, I just want to briefly remind everybody that the wonderful thing we can do is we can support Omashar and our own listening experience by going to Bandcamp, omashar.bandcamp.com. That's where his 5 albums live, and get them. Let's support Omashar. And really, it's so good to listen to his music. It's, especially those of us now that have been doing this for so long, we know his songs. And it's like hearing the Beatles, when a Beatles song comes on, it brings back this sense of love and hope and inspiration. And you are the Beatles of our time.
The metaphysical Beatles. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. John and I, we go back for minutes. So there it is.
Well,
sure. Go
And
ahead.
Scott, it adds a professionality to have like a house band there and a consistency. I know you like to have lots of musicians, but Omar Shah is because he's a professional and because he's there for every occasion. It just adds so much to the show.
Thank you, Alan. I love you too, brother. See you later.
Absolutely. Well, actually, stick around because I'm going to share a John Lennon story. This is a really cool thing. The story of the meaning of I Am the Walrus.
Mm.
Now, we've all listened and wondered, what does it mean? What does it mean? Well, it turns out that when John Lennon was in junior high school and senior high school, he was a naughty, naughty boy. And he had a English teacher that he did not get along well with at all. Beatles, he gets kicked out, had trouble with his teacher. Okay, 10 years later, the Beatles are the Beatles. And he discovers that this English teacher is bragging about how he had John Lennon in his class and he taught John Lennon and they're studying the Beatles songs. And so he literally wrote I Am the Walrus as a F-U to this teacher saying, fine, try and figure out the meaning of this when you're, going through it with your kids. So that's the story of the walrus.
Well, I think it also connects to Allison. Lewis Carroll had a sort of poem about a walrus and because he was very much into the kind of absurd language, those keys. One of the reasons I moved to New York in the early 80s was to meet John Lennon, well, before he was shot. But yes,
Oh, wow.
I never met him, but I met Yoko Ono a few times, and that was been very interesting. But
Wow.
Goo 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 Jew.
what's that?
Goo 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 Jew. Expert, smoking chokers. Don't you believe? What is that joker smiles at you? Something like that.
Right. That's very Lewis Carroll.
Right there, it's like down the rabbit hole.
Yes, the Walrus and the Carpenter, exactly. I think that's an allusion too, because he was very well read in kind of the absurdist language that had, secrets in it. So yeah.
And just to prove that I'm an illusion.
Susan Bloomquist writes, I think that Omar Shah has the essence of John. Scotty Satori writes, my schoolroom was the principal's office. We became very good friends. Susan Woolridge writes, the Walrus and the Carpenter. So there you go. All right, let's talk about Danny Sheehan. Because we're about to play the video and I'm going to read a little bit about him. This guy is amazing. Harvard Law School, Harvard Divinity School, a trained constitutional litigation attorney. For over 5 decades, his real work has been as a federal civil rights attorney, author, public speaker, and law school professor. And he's all been about exposing the sources of injustice in our country. This guy represented Karen Silkwood, who was later murdered, and they made a movie about her with Meryl Streep. He represented the Pentagon Papers, Daniel Ellsberg. He represented the Native Indigenous people at Standing Rock. He is the guy, and now his involvement in UFO, or we now call it UAP, disclosure and transparency, dates all the way back decades to the Carter administration. He was friends with Jimmy Carter, and he's been on this in the absolute center of the UFO world as it relates to government disclosure for 50 years.
Well, Scott, he was asked by Jimmy Carter to investigate some papers in the Pentagon during that his administration. He found this UFO file and he took pictures of it. And he actually took that file out for Jimmy Carter, this secret UFO file. And so that opened Danny to the fact that, wow, there really is something there. And then in the 90s, he defended John Mack at Harvard after John Mack wrote the book Abductions, and Harvard said, you can't talk about alien abductions at Harvard, and they wanted to get rid of him. Danny Sheehan came there and some other lawyers and basically said, no, John has the right to freedom of speech. He may not agree with your opinions, but this is this is what John feels is true, because John was a psychiatrist, the head of the Harvard Psychiatry Department. And he said, these people are not crazy. They're having a real experience. And Harvard didn't like that, but they couldn't do anything about it. So Danny's been in the UFO field, yes, since the 70s, the 90s. He's Lou Elizondo's lawyer. And Lou, of course, wrote this best-selling book, Right Out, Right Now, where he reveals the truth as he knew it of the UFO phenomenon. Lou Elizondo was central to this whole disclosure. I just want to read one thing that Lou says here in the book. Whether you had a UFO experience or aware of the facts, you should feel, what does it say? Sorry, let me just say. Whether you have a UFO experience, that you should be known by all, you should feel that your voice has been known. And when governments lie to their people, all of democracy is at risk. Keep the faith, we hear you. And that's sort of why he wrote this book. Because, wow. Yeah. And there's a lot more in here about his own experiences with orbs and how he went public. For the first time, he risked his job. He got threatened. You know, people are being threatened for exposing the truth in this field in particular. So we'll talk about that, though.
Yeah. Well, Danny's been a good friend to the Global Peace Tribe. He's been, on the show many, many times, Alan. And I know you've had him on your show, I'm sure, many, many times. And he's a great guy. He lives in Santa Cruz. He's just a real guy, and very open. Anyway, one
more thing. He feels this is one of the key issues for moving the world forward. The UFO truth about the UFO secrecy, exposing the truth, is right at the top of his list of freedom for the public. So he's basically starting a people's revolution to get UFO truth. And it's just like all the other liberation movements that have gone down. It starts on the fringe and eventually it catches on. So yeah, thank you for getting Danny on the show tonight.
Absolutely. So this Sunday is Global Disclosure Day, and you're going to hear Danny talk all about it. He wasn't able to join us live tonight because he had another engagement, but I did this interview that you're about to see with him last night. So it's very fresh. And here is Danny Sheehan. Let me pull it up. So here is our good friend, Danny Sheehan. I'm going to stop it a couple times and get your comments. So put your comments in the chat box and I'll read them. And of course, Alan and I will also comment about it as we watch this. I'm really grateful. We are with one of the busiest people on the planet, Danny Sheehan, who of course is doing extraordinary work. Danny, we're excited about Global Disclosure Day. Tell us a little bit about where things stand with the incredible work that you're doing with Luis Elizondo and Congress. Where do we stand? And then how do we learn more and participate in Global Disclosure Day?
Okay, where we stand, Scott, is that as people may recall, last year at about this time, we succeeded, the people in the UFO disclosure community succeeded in getting the United States Senate to pass a 64-page bill that was called the UAP Controlled Disclosure Act of 2025. And it was designed to, number one, order all 6 of the United States military services, all 18 of the United States intelligence agencies, all 32 of the United States Defense Department agencies, and every single one of the private aerospace corporations that were military contractors to gather all together and compile in one place every single document, every single phone call, every single note, every single report that had anything whatsoever to do with the UFO phenomenon or ETs, the extraterrestrial life, to gather them all together and put them together and have them ready to deliver immediately on October 20th of 2024. That is this coming Sunday. Okay. So we succeeded in getting it. That was an absolutely historic event that took place. That bill was passed by the United States Senate Intelligence Committee 17-0, which means that every single Republican and every single Democratic senator supported it. It passed the United States Senate, with 90 of the 100 senators voting for it, sent over to the House. And then what happened there was that there were 3 people that were opposing it. And one of them was the Republican chair of the House Intelligence Committee, who happens to come from the congressional district in Ohio that is the base of the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base,
Wow.
which is, as we all know here, is where the crashed UFO debris was taken from Roswell, and
Right.
has been for decades a center of the effort to back engineer UFO craft. Okay. The other person was the Republican chairman of the House Armed Services Committee from over in Alabama, where the Redstone Rocket Range is, where they're trying to actually utilize the back engineering to try to transform it into a weapons delivery platform at the rocket range. These 2 guys basically stuck their finger in the eye of the United States Senate and the rest of the people in the House, and got the Speaker of the House, Michael Johnson, to refuse to put the whole 64-page bill onto the floor for a vote. But we responded by coming in and mobilizing all the people in the House of Representatives. Of the 435 members of the House of Representatives, we had like 430 of them supporting the bill.
Wow.
But Johnson agreed to only put 23 pages of the 64 pages up for a vote. Now, we succeeded, however, in getting past the command from the United States Congress as a whole, both the Senate and the House, commanding these military services and intelligence agencies and Defense Department agencies to gather together every single document pertaining to UFOs and ETs, or the non-human intelligence is how they refer to it, to have them all gathered together and prepared to be delivered to the National Archives by October 20th of this year. In the Senate bill, had said they had to be delivered immediately. But the House bill modified the language, saying that they had to produce this stuff and deliver it to the National Archives as soon as possible. And we were distressed about that because we viewed that as a potential out for them. And what's happened now is, up until the very last weekend, until last Thursday, in fact, that order had been outstanding, demanding that they turn it over, to have it completely compiled and turned over as soon as possible as of October 20th. But what happened is the National Archives issued a guidance letter on last Thursday, asserting that they were extending the date until next September of 2025 before any of that information had to be actually delivered. So what we're doing now is we're organizing, very importantly, to get a hearing held in the United States Senate and a hearing held in the United States House of Representatives in November, so that we can confront this effort on the part of the opponents of disclosure to delay. And so what we're trying to do is get the issue raised in 2 hearings, one in the Senate and one in the House. We have succeeded in getting the House and the Senate to agree to hold hearings. Okay, we're now working on getting the agenda determined so that they will in fact confront this long delay and try to shorten the period during which they have to turn this information over. Next, we are trying to get put on the agenda of those 2 hearings. We're trying to get put on the agenda the latest information that has been made public now, naming the top secret program pursuant to which they have been trying to back engineer UFO technology and actually attempting to forcibly bring down UFO craft so that they can get their hands on this technology in a non-damaged form. That this program is codenamed Immaculate Constellation. We've now secured the code name for the program.
Wow.
And we have a number of people from deep inside that program who are willing to talk to Congress, specifically to the Senate Intelligence Committee. And we're trying to get the hearing that is going to be scheduled in the Senate. Is going to be chaired by Senator Christian Gillibrand from New York, to put this issue on the agenda so that we can confront them not only for declining to produce the records that they were originally commanded to produce on October 20th of this year, and also to confront them about this program.
I'm going to stop for a moment because I want to bring Alan on if he turns on his camera. And Alan, if you can hear me, because I know that Alan's got a really important piece about this. But this is huge. Yeah, good. There you are. Okay. So Alan, tell the audience what you know.
The Immaculate Constellation program came out because this reporter, Michael Schallenberg, had just written an article in a newspaper, online newspaper called The Public. And he broke that story, and now everyone's talking about the Immaculate Constellation. I'm going to play a little clip of Michael Schallenberg, actually in an interview with Ross Coulter, talking about that I'm going to optimize the video, and we'll see how that comes out. Do you see that, Scott?
Yes, we do.
Anyway, there's been death threats for anyone who mentions the name before Schallenberger came out. So this is Schallenberger with Ross Coulter. He says here.
It's an incredible story. So a new whistleblower has come forward with a written report that this person has shared with some members of Congress and with me, and the report is quite extraordinary. It says that there is an unacknowledged special access program called Immaculate Constellation, which is the parent program, is the language used for exactly what you said, UAP, crash retrieval, reverse engineering.
And this has been secret for probably 40 years or more. They have a program for crash retrieval, reverse engineering, and it's finally coming out.
And apparently a very large database of high quality photographs, videos, infrared videos, apparently much more sophisticated documentation of many more UAP encounters than have been released. And so the article is really about the allegation that this program exists and that it has been withheld from Congress illegally. I hope at some point it does.
Illegally, that's the crux of Schallenberg's article. There's another minute on this, Scott. Do you want to?
Yeah, go ahead and play it.
Okay. He's a very key reporter in this whole thing, and that's Ross Coulter is also important.
It's become public. It's a fascinating, there's much more in it than I could summarize in the article, but there's just a fascinating description of different UAPs that we've all heard about, orbs and tic-tac and discs and triangles and boomerangs and all the different, you think about the Phoenix Lights. And so if you have some familiarity with the big UAP cases, it's very striking to see that there is a database of UAPs captured apparently by the Defense Department and the intelligence community in a database that Congress, at a minimum, the Gang of Eight should have access to. Yeah, the report. So I have the report. It's, I think it's 25 pages. It's very well written. This is a professional, somebody whose job it is to interpret information and evidence, somebody who obviously feels moral duty to the Constitution. Similarly to David Grush, this is a person who obviously loves their country and is patriotic, and does not feel that this information, if it got out, would undermine national security. I hope very much that the report, that some version of it can be made public, because this is taxpayers paid for this research, as you mentioned, over many decades.
And so that's part of it. It's not so much about aliens, it's that stuff is going on behind the government with no congressional oversight. This is Schallenberg's argument there. And I have some of that. And what Danny was talking about, let me just show you this other little thing here, Scott. He was talking about what's been called the Schumer Amendment. And it was proposed last year in 2023, and it was voted down. And Schumer came back with a bunch of other people and proposed it again. But he's saying the American public has the right to learn about technologies of unknown origins. And Schumer himself says non-human intelligence and unexplainable phenomena. And this is what's being demanded in that bill that Danny's talking about. So there's a lot on the table, and we're at the threshold of a new era. This is why we're in such an interesting moment in history. It's the time we wake up and feel we're part of a bigger cosmos. And that's why I wrote this book, Making Contact, because it's time we realize that life is an emergent property of creation. We're not alone in the universe, and that consciousness is the key to our future. So it's like that.
Thank you so much for providing that
Yes.
additional input. We're going to go back to Danny in a moment. And again, somebody asked, I did this interview with Danny last night. Okay. So it's about as fresh as can be. Here we go, back to Danny.
Immaculate constellation to force them to call whistleblowers to the stand publicly, as they did with David Grush back in July of 2023, to actually have live firsthand witnesses come forward and testify to the American people, confirming that this program exists, that we are in fact in possession of non-human origin extraterrestrial spacecraft, and the bodies of the occupants that have been confirmed to be non-human. That is what the agenda is that we're trying to get imposed upon these hearings in both the House and the Senate. One final word is that we now have before the House of Representatives a 2025 enhanced UFO whistleblower protection law to try to get that past the House of Representatives and put into the conference committee with the Senate that takes place during November to improve the protection of UFO whistleblowers specifically, to give them a private legal cause of action in federal court against any individual who in any way attempts to interfere with their ability to provide UFO information to Congress. And that bill is in front of the United States House of Representatives right now, and we're trying to make sure that gets passed by the House. In addition to giving in addition to giving the potential UFO whistleblower a legal cause of action in federal court, we have in the statute that would strip the violator of any immunity that they have as a government officer or official, because under the present law of sovereign immunity, representatives of the United States government have qualified immunity. And so we're in the bill that we've proposed stripping them of that liability or that immunity in the case of UFO whistleblowers who want to talk to Congress. So that's where we are right now. That's the status of things as we go into our October 20th Global Disclosure Day, where we're going to be having a nationwide, worldwide telecast from the New Paradigm Institute on October 20th starting at 10. What, Sarah? Yeah, it's a Zoom on the internet on October 20th, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time to begin. And you can see up here in the upper left-hand side where it says Global Disclosure Day, October 2023 is supposed to be. The bottom line is you can sign up right here. As you see, it's 1 p.m. Eastern time, and it's 10 a.m. Pacific time. You can sign up here for free, and you will be sent the Zoom podcast link. It's free of charge. You just sign up and sign in there and give us your name and contact information, and you will be sent the Zoom. And you'll come on at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to have Lou Elizondo. We're going to have Colonel Carl Nell. We're going to have Ross Coulthart. I'm going to be there. Sarah Nelson, our executive director, is going to be there. Jim Garrison, our Washington, D.C. director, is going to be there. Kevin Wright, who is our Washington legislative liaison, is going to be there. We're going to have all the people that you can see listed here are going to be speaking, and we're going to be announcing Rich Hoffman, who is a member of the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies, is going to be there. And we're going to have a board member from the MUFON, who is going to be present and going to be announcing a potential upcoming partnership between the New Paradigm Institute and MUFON to set up in every one of the 435 congressional districts around the country a chapter of Citizens for Disclosure, who are going to be mobilizing and communicating with their United States senators and their House of Representatives members to compel full disclosure of all the information that our United States government has relating to the UFO phenomenon and the extraterrestrial civilization that is responsible for the UFOs. That's what we're doing on this coming Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific time.
How long will the program go for, do you think, Danny?
The program is going to be a 2-hour program.
Okay.
So we're going to have presentations made by all of these people, which is going to include we have Citizens for Disclosure operational already in 43 states.
Wow.
We're not going to have representatives from all 43 there, but some of those that are representing the we have, for example, we have 650 people in our Citizens for Disclosure group in New Mexico, in Albuquerque. So the head of that particular Citizens for Disclosure group is going to make a presentation. We're going to have representatives from Montana and across the country. And we're going to have representatives from Citizens for Disclosure from other countries, from Sweden and Brazil, in other places. So this is going to be a great celebration of how far we've come so far, and going to be the inaugural convening of an annual Global Disclosure Day, which is going to be analogous to Earth Day, so that every single year on October 20th, which is the date that was scheduled to release this information to the public, that we're going to be having a Global Disclosure Day to give updates to everybody on the increasing numbers of people that are joining together to demand from our government and the governments across the planet that they all disclose the information that they've had for decades pertaining to the UFO phenomenon. This is going to be an annual convening of people, and we're going to be at the New Paradigm Institute able to bring on for them the leading people involved in the disclosure process, just like Lou Elizondo and Carl Nell and Ross Coulthart and myself and others, to be able to give everybody a current update as we do daily on our New Paradigm Institute website.
Fabulous. Well, thank you, first of all. I'll be there. I know a lot of Global Peace Tribers will be there. Will this be recorded, and will the recording be available for those who can't join you live?
Yes, yes. The whole thing is going to be recorded, and it will be available on our newparadigminstitute.org website.
So I'm going to stop there for a moment and just make sure everybody's got the information on how to register. So if you go to if you go to the New Paradigm Institute, let me go back one step and show everyone. So for all of you watching on Facebook or YouTube, Alan Steinfeld's New Realities, go to newparadigminstitute.org, newparadigminstitute.org. And then up here in the upper right-hand corner, register for free. And that's where it'll take you to the link to register for Global Disclosure Day. I'm going to put that link into the chat box for all of our Zoom room friends. I'm certainly going to want to be there. And so it's from 10 a.m. to 12 noon Pacific time, 1 p.m. till 3 p.m. Eastern. And Kathy, she just said that there'll be a recording. So if you register, then you'll be able to find the recording of it. I guess they'll send out the recording or they'll post it on the New Paradigm Institute website. Alan, what are your thoughts?
I think the cast that he has lined up here, Lou Elizondo, Carl Nell, who I showed last time, who's a colonel, who said, absolutely, there are ETs among us. Let's see who else is on this list here.
Well, your friend Stephen Bassett.
Stephen Bassett, who's going to be speaking this week. Costa, your old friend Costa, who does the CE5s around the world, is going to be speaking.
I saw that. I'm in Costa, where he's my Greek brother. And,
that's right. This woman, Bertie Jarowski, who's a really excellent remote viewer, has lots of UFO contact. There's a wide range of views coming. Julia Mossberg, who talks about AI and the implications of that. So, and then there's Giorgio Placisa, Italian UFO investigator. There's people from all over the world coming to this forum. Ross Coulthard, who broke the story with David Grush and Gary Nolan. He's done some very important work as a journalist. So this is going to be a great day. I think they should do a live gathering to gain public support out there next year after this October 20th. It should be the time we all come together, and I would say do it in Washington, D.C. on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. I mean, we should talk to Danny about that, because that you can actually get the Lincoln Memorial if you say you're not charging and just have to make a reservation. Let's do that. Let's talk to Danny. Get some of the big speakers in our field. We'll get Whitley Strieber there. We'll get, Linda Moulton Howe. We'll have a, like they used to do those anti-war rallies in the 60s. We'll do a pro-truth rally that everyone is invited to go to. So
fantastic.
That's my vision. Yeah.
I want to, I'm not going to read everything, but there was a great chat going on with Alan and Susan Blomquist and Jeffrey Colebrook and a few others, Kat Lewis, in the chat box. So for those of you on Facebook, what they were talking about is that so much of this is about money. It is the military-industrial complex trying to stop disclosure. It used to be, Alan, the Catholic Church that was stopping it. But the current Pope is the very first Jesuit Pope. Danny is a Jesuit. He's talked to Pope Francis, and Francis wants there to be disclosure because he believes it'll bring the world together. So it's no longer the Catholic Church stopping disclosure, but it's the military-industrial complex that wants to monetize the
crash retrievals.
The crash retrievals, exactly.
And do you realize how illegal that is? They're taking property that belongs to the people of the United States, and they're selling our property to private industry and making, that's my feeling. I don't have any proof about that, but why else are they threatening people It's not about aliens. It's about money. Who cares if there's aliens? I mean, we care, but does they care about the access to weapons, development, and power is what Susan mentioned, and I agree. I also just want to show you a little bit of the article that broke it open around the world. This is Schallenberg's article in something called Public. Let me just pull this up here so everyone can see that. You see that on your screen? I know this. It says Pentagon is illegally hiding UFO program from Congress, whistleblowers allege. So there's one whistleblower that came forward. New government whistleblower reveals for the first time the name of the unacknowledged special access program, which we just heard is Immaculate Constellation. Before this article, people were threatened. George Knapp was threatened to come out with that name. So this is just brand new, October 8th, 2024. And at the bottom of this article, it says what is really going on here. Okay, here. One of these individuals, this whistleblower, is current former U.S. government official acting as a UAP whistleblower. The person has written a report saying the executive branch has been managing the UAP NHI. That's another term we have to become familiar with. Non-human intelligence issues without congressional knowledge, oversight, authorization for some time, quite possibly decades. I would say since 47, since Truman has decided to keep the whole thing secret, excuse me. Furthermore, these individuals have revealed the name of an active and highly secretive DOD unacknowledged special act. That's the Immaculate Constellation. The source of the document told the public, Schallenberg, that the USAP is a strategic intelligence program that is part U.S. military family of long-standing, highly sensitive programs dealing with various aspects of UAP. In other words, this has been going on a long time, and the government and the military have not been coming forth. They've been hiding the secret for whatever reason. And finally, reporters like Ross Coulthard, George Knapp, Michael Schallenberg, Linda Moulton Howe, are coming forward with this effort for truth that is going to change the whole way we look at ourselves and the nature of reality. Isn't that interesting? Would you be, someone said, Sylvia says, would you be up for shifting your language about the craft pilots from aliens and non-human intelligence to star beings? Yes, that's a good point. They are star beings, absolutely. I know aliens like a very old term. Non-human intelligence, star beings, I think we're a long way for Congress to actually acknowledge star beings, but at least they're saying they're not aliens.
Yeah.
So I will change my line. Thank you, Sylvia, for pointing that out. Isn't that interesting, Scott, that it's all coming out now?
Oh, yeah. And, you know, pulling back at a bigger level, I mean, everything is coming. I mean, this most contentious election ever, climate change just peaking so quickly, all the astrological changes, you know, the whole, I know somebody had written about Pluto going direct and the change in Aquarius and
well, I got to introduce you to Ann Tucker, who's having this channeling with these angels, and she says there's a huge blast of light that's going to hit the planet, she thinks, by the end of 2026, and it's going to completely shift everyone's consciousness. We'll get her on the show, Ann Tucker, channeling the angels. It's very dramatic, and she's just an honest, you know, regular person who's getting these downloads. So I have an interview with her. Maybe I'll put that in the chat too.
Yeah, and please, let's get her on the show for sure. Yeah,
but it's all happening now. We're reaching a threshold point. There's more UFO sightings than ever. Someone just showed me a UFO over the Empire State Building in New York City. I mean, there's things happening. And I think when Lou Elizondo calls his book Imminent, what's imminent is that either the government tells us or the star people tell us what they're here. So that's what's eminent. And don't you feel the energy just building in these
Oh,
last?
absolutely. Absolutely. You know,
Wow.
I like what Kat Lewis, Dr. Kat is great. She's been on the show. She has a wonderful meditation program on Sunday mornings, by the way, that started last week, which I've enjoyed. Kat writes, the ultimate shift in perspective is to realize the outer world is inside of us. When we fully realize this, we will not harm anyone. And that's another way of talking about the oneness, you know, as we really expand our consciousness and remember that we are one with all beings, you know, what quantum physics teaches us, that we're just this ever-changing pool of molecules that just keeps changing form. And we really are one living, breathing experience of reality.
This is what the ETs or the whatever they want to call them, star beings, are trying to tell us by their presence here, that it's not about building more weapons, which is what the Pentagon, the military wants. So how are we going to make a better, technologies? It's about raising our vibration so we can meet these others on an even playing field. It's like we have to go to their level. It's like talking to your dog. I know you're close with your dog, but you don't bark at your dog when you want to talk to it, right? You talk at the level, maybe we're a higher vibration or at least more sophisticated. That's what I think these beings want us to converse on, the frequency of a higher energy. And that's what they're waiting for. This is my opinion. They're waiting for us to grow up and meet them. They're not going to come down and, they're not here to invade. They're not here to take over. They're not interested. They are concerned with our nuclear weapons. You know that. There's been lots.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's why the crash of Roswell happened.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that in 1947, there was only one atomic bomb group in the world, and it was stationed, the 509th, stationed in Roswell, New Mexico. They were doing a tremendous amount of atomic testing in New Mexico. We, of course, saw the movie Oppenheimer, which described that.
Right.
And so there was a lot of UFO activity trying to figure out what was going on and probably sending a message. And one of them got hit by lightning and crashed.
Or radar. Some people say there was high power radar that may have taken them down. Elizondo just heard, he's been talking about this publicly, that there were 2 crashes of UFOs in Roswell. One was able to correct itself and take off, and one was left to take to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which probably still has some of those bodies there. And that's what Grush is talking about. He says there are bodies that look like what we've heard of as grays. So,
when I was producing the television show Strange Universe, our opening show was an interview that I did with Frank Kaufman. Frank Kaufman, I had been trying to get an interview with him for 2 years, back when I was working on Paranormal Borderline. Kaufman was the head of the CIC, which was the forerunner to the CIA. And he was stationed in Roswell because there was so much stuff going on. And when the crash happened, the first thought, because the government at the time didn't think it was UFOs monitoring us, they thought it was Russian spy craft.
right.
So we had the bomb and the Russians wanted to get it. So he was stationed in Roswell to ferret out Soviet spies. The crash took place. They thought it was a Soviet spy plane. He was one of the first people on the scene. And so he saw the dead aliens and the one that was still alive. And he did an interview with us. And he was dying of cancer. He had not spoken about this for all these years. He was dying of cancer and figured, okay, I might as well spill the beans. And that was our opening segment on Strange Universe. And
what did he say about the aliens? What did they look like?
6 fingers,
Oh,
bald, and there was no panels on the dash. There was like no dashboard, but you could see where they put their hands, their 6-fingered hand, into a place and became one with the ship. And that's how they would pilot the ship.
Right. It's about consciousness. They merge with the ship, and
They merge with the
this
ship.
is this is why consciousness is the key to understanding the UFO phenomenon. This is why the military can't explain what's going on, because they're not interested in consciousness. They're just interested in weapons. Although some people may now, the people who are coming forward, like Elizondo and Carmel and Grush, are opening up to the idea that there's something that about consciousness. Elizondo was a remote viewer. If you read the book further, he'll talk about. So that's the paradigm shift. It's not about non-human intelligence. It's about what our potential is as human beings, because I feel, are equal to them. We just have not activated our potential.
Absolutely. That's
This-
right. We've got 5 minutes left of Danny. Let's finish with Danny.
Okay, great.
An Omashar song, and then Neil Donald Walsh. So, and more Alan Steinfeld for sure. So here we go. Let's complete with what Danny had to say to me last night.
A website for people who are unable to make it live.
Okay, great, great. Question I know a lot of people ask, is there a particular presidential candidate that those of us who want disclosure should vote for? Does it make a difference?
Well, there would be but none of them have been nominated by either of the two parties. But they do exist. But the bottom line is that the presidential candidates and the major senatorial candidates and House candidates for the two major parties have not made this a make or break issue yet. But there are a significant number of members of the House and Senate who have been very, very vocal about supporting the disclosure bill that we have been involved in drafting at the New Paradigm Institute. And they have spoken out on this repeatedly, that we as a 501c3 have not been authorized to engage in actively campaigning for them against whoever their opponent may be. And I hasten to point out that these include both Democrats and Republicans across the political spectrum. That this is one of the, if not the only, totally bipartisan issue in the United States Congress right now. Almost everything else generates into this and into anything that's proposed by the other party. That has not happened with regard to the UFO stuff. That tiny number of people, those three people that I've mentioned, the Michael Turner, who is the chair of the Republican chair of the House Intelligence Committee, and Michael Rogers, who's the chair of the Republican chair of the House Armed Services Committee, and Michael Johnson, who is the present Speaker of the House, are the only three in the whole House of Representatives who've actively opposed the bill. But even they were only successful in stopping part of it. We were able to get 23 pages in, like a third of the bill, which was part of the most important part of mandating that they gather all this information together and turn it over to the National Archives. Because there in the National Archives, whether it's for public release or even still classified, the members of the Senate Intelligence Committee and the House Intelligence Committee that have the adequate clearances will be able to get access to it.
Right.
And it'll be the first time that Congress has ever been given access to the above top secret the special access program information about the UFOs. And so that this is a major hallmark of the UFO disclosure movement in the world. And it's a major victory that we have won so far, but you can see that they're still dragging their feet in trying to come up with different ways of postponing it.
Yeah.
The bottom line is the mandate has been issued to them to gather it together. Even with the National Archives, they've now been commanded to turn it over by September 25th of 2025. It's another year to wait, but it gives us the ability to bring up these subjects in the two hearings. And very importantly, we've succeeded in getting hearings that are going to be held in both the Senate and the House virtually immediately after the election. November 14th is one of the dates for the hearings that we know are going to be held in the House, and the Senate hasn't announced the day in November yet, but both meetings, both public hearings, are going to be held in November following the election.
All right. After that, I was just thanking him for his time.
Right.
So
So I think the most interesting thing he said there was that the files that are being collected from the intelligence, agencies are going to be available in archival form that maybe anyone could have access to. And these are what the SAPs are. Everyone's talking about secret access programs. And if they go to the archive, I think there's oversight, though. I think they probably won't release everything because they're claiming national security, which is a joke, because revealing the fact that there are ETs here doesn't threaten national security. It just threatens the state of national security. It threatens those who think they know what's going on. I think that's one of the big problems. Nobody knows why these beings are here, what they want. I mean, we have an idea about consciousness, but if you're looking at it from a military point of view, it doesn't make sense. Why haven't they already invaded or taken over?
Right.
And so that's what's changing with the People's Movement and people like Danny Sheehan and all the people that are going to be there on Sunday. That's the perspective. Let's look at where they're coming from. I do recommend everyone being there at that worldwide Zoom, and let's see if we can gain momentum. Yeah, Global Disclosure Day, everyone. Citizens for Disclosure. And it's for truth. It's not just disclosure. It's government truth on many, many levels.
absolutely. I'm going to conclude this section of this show. We're going to go to Neil Donald Walsh and the Humanities team in a moment, and of course, an Omar Shore song before that. But I want to read two comments, and I appreciate all the comments that have come in. I'm not going to respond too much to the political ones, but I really want to read two comments that, for me, summarize this. And you've kind of referenced it, Alan. From Kat Lewis again, Dr. Kat. The physical reality is responding to our consciousness. Our state of consciousness determines how the physical reality responds to us. When we can bring our level of consciousness to the unified field, we can go beyond the normal laws of physics. And that's
Yes.
a spiritual scientist.
I think that's so important because that's the dimension people are talking, the fifth, fourth, fifth, whatever dimension, that's going to shift us to realize our access to this non-local consciousness that we're a part of. We are the ETs, whatever you want to call us. We are not from Earth. Consciousness is pervasive throughout all time and all space, and we're part of that. Okay, what else, Scott?
Actually, going to be two more comments. From our new friend, Ashleah. She writes, there is absolutely nothing that does not exist in consciousness. As we self-actualize and realize our inner space is connected to the outer experience, we're going to realize how powerful the human being is. We really need to be unifying with ourselves, with each other first and foremost, and then having that unified expression expand out.
Excellent, Ashley. Yes, excellent. You know, Scott, we should do a show with Ashleah and Tara, my friend, Tara, because they both talk about grounding consciousness into the body and bringing that out as an evolutionary trait. So
do it. Let's do that. Okay,
Okay.
next show with Alan. That's what it'll be.
Okay.
And just want to reference what Ellie wrote, talking about how we really are, these are our brothers and sisters, and I think we know that there are many, many species, just like there's many species of life on this planet. Obviously, there's many species that are visiting us. That's why there's different size of craft. But I think many of us do have a connection to the Pleiadians, to the serious. Are you serious? Are you serious? No, I'm Pleiadian. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge that part.
Scott, the universe, I'm convinced, is full of life and it's full of intelligent life. And we've been kept in the dark. It's like, no, you're too young to hear about sex. We can't tell you about, what the rest of the universe is like. We're being treated like very little children by our government and military, like you can't handle the truth. Well, I think the time is now. So do you realize what an epic moment in history we're at now, Scott?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely epic moment. That's why you do New Realities. That's why I do The Awakening World. That's why we're all together on Wednesday night talking about this, because this is it. This is what's really going on. That's incredible. So, all right.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Alan, for joining us. Stick around if you want. We're going to hear from Neil Donald Walsh and some of our friends from Humanities team. And as our bridge, it's the Alpha Bridge Omega Man, our beautiful house musical artist, Joe Shore.
Yes, indeed. And it's interesting because when I first came to the States a couple of decades ago, I was called a legal alien. So that discloses something right there, I'm sure. And me and Sting, right?
Yep.
And so, yes. What more can I be than what I am? Though it's taken some time to clear these clouds from my eyes. So open your heart and dance along. I'm thinking it's time to stop that same old song. So hear me now. I am in love with the world around me, and I will hold her in my arms and lift her with my dreaming. Ba-da-da-da. Lift her with my dreaming. Ba-da-da-da. And lift her with my dreaming. So don't try to hold me to what I was. I've traveled through time to see this day arise. The love that I am is here for you. So open the door and let the sun shine in. I've come alive, so hear me now. I am in love with the world around me, and I will hold her in my arms and lift her with my dreaming. I lift her with my dreaming. I lift her with my dreaming. song. I've come alive, so hear me now. I am in love with the world around me, and I will hold her in my arms and lift her with my dreaming. I lift her with my dreaming. I lift her with my dreaming. What more can I be than what I am?
We got to unmute.
I know.
Well, this wonderful man.
That's
And
fine.
I'm going to start today with this because we've got something very special. We have another birthday. One of our favorite, most amazing global peace tribers also had a birthday. You know, last week we celebrated Lynn's 80th. Well, I also discovered that our beloved Dia Therese also turned 80 years old this week, which means that she and Lynn parachuted into this world within days of each other 80 years ago. And here they are as global peace tribers. So Dia, welcome. Your camera's on you, and happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm
And
humbled.
and what's your vision that we can hold for you? What would you like to experience during this next cycle around the sun?
This year, my intent is to discover the community where I will relocate that knows about the excursion, the 12,000-year excursion, as well as everything you've brought to us, Scott, on your programs over the last 5 years. So I'm looking for a sustainable community too, and I'll be there Sunday at Observer Ranch. So I'll be thinking of you.
Fantastic. So let's just all send maximum grace. I'm going
Thank
to
you.
pin you, my dear.
Happy
Maximum
birthday
grace.
to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dia. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Oh, that was so lovely.
We love you very much, Dia. I look forward to
Thank you.
spending the next 80 years with you.
Yes. In some form or another.
One form or another, absolutely. And I'm going to put Alan back on for a moment because I do want to let everybody know Alan's got an amazing YouTube channel. And he's got so many amazing good things on there. It's really easy. Just go to YouTube, put in New Realities, make sure you subscribe. And Alan, are there any particular new videos, interviews that you really want to make sure
Well,
people check
I'm
out?
just showing the one I did with Ann Tucker. I think she's a rising star. Let's see. I've been doing the 11 days of Awakening Humanity with Neil Gar and the Portal to Ascension. This is my latest interview today with Avi Loeb. He's a scientist who's investigating UFOs. There's also my playlist where I've interviewed all the great teachers in the UFO field. To scroll down, New Realities hosted UFO ET panels right there. This is me at Contact in the Desert. This is me on the UFO cruise. We're doing another cruise, I'll put that in the chat too, called the Galactic Origins Cruise with JJ Hertog. Ashley will be there. Vivian Chavez will be there. It's actually, that's a good thing to show. GalacticOriginsCruise.com, and you'll see a whole bunch. Deborah Giusti, your good friend, will be on that cruise. Do you see that?
I can pull it up.
Yep.
Galactic
Origins
I got it.
Cruise. There's still room available. It's going to be we're leaving Cape Canaveral, and there it is. And we're Orlando, but it's really Cape Canaveral. We're going through the Bermuda Triangle. The first night we're going to have a meditation. Then we're going down to the Yucatan. We're going to do excursions to a lot of the Mayan temples. There'll be an excursion led by JJ and Desiree Hurtak. We're going to Roatán, Honduras. And these are the presenters. You know some of these people: Laura Eisenhower, Deborah Dashing, Vivian Chabay, Debbie Solaris. This is my good friend Marilyn, who channels Zazar. There I am. There's your friend Deborah Giusti and mine, Flo Karuna, Susan Shastner. Very good. This guy channels the Mantis.
There's Ash,
and JK Ultra, who's fantastic. I'm sure you know Susan Shumsky,
Yep.
Neil, and it'll just be a great gathering of people for 7 days on a ship. So when we're sailing, we do lectures, and when we get to the port, we go on excursions. And you know what I love to say about the cruise, it's all the food you can eat, you know. So,
For someone who wants to lose weight like myself, a cruise is dangerous.
all right, but it's going to be a lot of fun, even for someone like
It looks
you.
great. No, it looks fantastic.
All
Absolutely.
right. So sign up and tell them you heard about it here from me. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you for all that you do, and look forward to always continuing to work with you.
Yes, definitely. We've been in touch and we'll continue to, do that. Thanks so much.
So, we now have a whole new set of holidays. In addition to Christmas and Easter and New Year's, we've got International Peace Day every September 21st, Global Disclosure Day every October 20th, it's going to be. And for 15 years now, Humanities Team has been doing a Global Oneness Summit. And of course, on Saturday night, we did a big show promoting that. And Steve Farrell sent me so many amazing things. I didn't get a chance to show all of them. And I'm not going to get a chance to show all of them again tonight, because this went longer than I thought, but it was great. But I want to let everyone know, starting this Saturday, October 19th, the Art and Science of Elevating Consciousness. Now, this is a free program. You can all join. I'll put the link into the chat box in a moment. But look at the remarkable people that they've got. And you know what I love? The very first person listed is Omar Shar. So they've got their priorities right. And then you get to Greg Braden, Susan Gleisman, Anna Dea, you've seen her on the show, Neil Donald Walsh, who you're going to see in a few moments, and many, 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 many others. It's quite an incredible week. So 65 free panels. You're going to get just a little taste of a couple of those tonight. So I want to encourage everybody to join the Art and Science of Elevating Consciousness. It's the 15th annual Global Oneness Summit and Celebration. And that's what we're going to be honoring next on The Awakening World. And next being like now. So I know that we all love Neil Donald Walsh. He was on Saturday Night Live many times. We even did an evening just with Neil. This is the latest that Neil has to say. It's a beautiful conversation between Neil and our good friend Steve Farrell. So I'll stop at about halfway through to read comments like we did with Alan. And here we go. Here's Neil Donald Walsh.
The whole idea of Humanities Team came to me in a dream. There was no such thing, of course, but I awoke from a very real dream one morning in the early 2000s. And the dream was, in my dream, I saw the population of the Earth and all the conflict going on even then. And now, of course, it continues. We just can't seem to eliminate conflict from our experience. We'll get to that in a minute. But in any event, in the dream, I'm seeing, humanity in wearing different colored jerseys on a football field, on a playing field, soccer field, somewhere in yellow jerseys, somewhere in blue jerseys, somewhere in red jerseys. And I was watching, they were all fighting with each other. They were not just competing, but they were really, fighting with each other. And in this dream, it's a very real dream, one of those dreams where you're aware that you're dreaming, that kind of a dream. They call it a lucid dream. Anyway, I'm in this dream and I'm thinking to myself, but who will be on humanity's team? Why can't there just be one team with everybody wearing the same color jerseys? Why can't there be a humanities team? Why does there have to be this team and that team and this team and that group and this group and that group? So I woke up in a start. I just sat up in bed and I went, my God, that's it. I got to create humanities team. I ran down to my computer on the lower level of my house, and I checked it out to see if anyone had taken the name humanitiesteam.com. No one had. I thought, that's a sign, because every halfway decent domain name had been taken already. So I went ahead and I purchased humanitiesteam.com and .org and .info. All of the permutations, all of the variations, so that no one could steal the name. Then I put a call out on the internet to see if anybody would be interested in joining me in creating such an organization and meeting with me in my home, as Steve remembered. And sure enough, a handful of people, I'm not talking 20 or 30, but maybe 6 or 7 people showed up at my house. We spent a weekend in my home in Ashland. Steve, thank goodness, was one of them. And there were 4 or 5 others of us just sitting around talking all weekend about how we could create, or what would happen, what would need to happen for us to create an organization called Humanities Team. And Steve just lit up the room. He just said, I'm in. And he threw his chips on the table. You know how you do when you're playing poker, all in. Steve was all in, and that's just what I needed. Nobody else had that. There was a lot of interest in the room, but nobody had that level of commitment. But Steve and I met each other in terms of our level of commitment, and we decided to create a humanities team. So I announced a major event in Portland, Oregon, and we had about 6 or 7 people there. Or maybe 600 or 700, I forgot, but it was a large number of people who showed up. And then I gave a little talk and introduced Steve, and Humanities Team was formed right then and there. And Steve, talk about commitment, just dropped everything that he was doing in his life. I mean, in the years that followed, he just stepped away from most of the other activities, including his businesses, in his life, and became the worldwide executive director of Humanities Team. Thank goodness he did, because I have zero administrative ability, zero ability to do anything really, except just maybe write a paragraph or 2 here and there, but that's about my only talent in life. But Steve had all this administrative talent. He knew how to form companies, how to create groups, how to get people to work together. He has all these terrific talents. So I just said, okay, I'm out of it. You're in it. You're the big guy. I'm just a person over here in the corner. And so that's the story of Humanities Team and how it all began back in 2000 and something or another.
Well, let me say, that was a lot of wonderful memories back there, Neil. And let me go to this whole who's going to be on Humanities Team thing. I want to just indulge that for a moment, because isn't that interesting? Because today, isn't uniting humanity, isn't this the thing? Isn't this the thing? Where you've got people all over the world saying, what is it going to take to unite humanity so that we can create a world where we come out of global warming? And of course, it's more than global warming, where there's just overuse of energy, water, land, etc. They're all we're not stewarding the planet well. And there are wars
and to say nothing of the mindset of people, certain people and nations that talk about, when we disagree, we're going to kill each other.
Right. Yeah. So, and isn't it just phenomenal? I mean, beautiful, really, that this work that we're doing is the work that unites humanity, because the work is this work that mystics have talked about down through the ages, about why we're really here, that we're all actually coming from one source, right? We made up all the countries and these different tribes and things.
Yeah, the secret was given to us, frankly, in Conversations with God, Book 1. In the first chapter, in the first portion of the first chapter of book one. The major message that God is sending to the world was given to us in the very first few sentences of book one. All things are one thing. There's only one thing. And all things are part of the one thing there is. And I questioned that. I said, what are you saying? What that would mean that we're all part of you and you're all part of us, of all of us. And God said that is exactly right. And there is only one body, one essence, looking differently, but really one essence. And then I was fighting to understand this, Steve. And God said, Neil, hold up your hand. So I held up my hand. And she said, now take a look at the fingers on your hand. Are they identical? No, they're not identical. They're different. Are they separate? Well, no, they're not actually separate. They're attached to my hand. And God said to me, okay, so understand that you are all fingers on the hands of God. There's no separation. No separation. You're all one body, but you are individualized. And that's been part of the challenge, Steve, because most people who want to agree that we are all one are afraid that if they agree and hold that as their reality, that they will lose their sense of individuality. And so they don't want to lose their sense of themselves as an individual expression. So I want to make it the point here, if I could today, without going on too long, but just to make the point, that while we are all interconnected, we are all one, there's really no separation between us. That does not mean that we are not all individualized and all capable of our individual expression of the wonder of life that we call divinity. So that would be my message here today. And what would take, you asked a minute ago, what would it take for us to be members of Humanity's Team? What would it take for us to all join together and begin to work toward a common goal? Simply an understanding of our interconnectedness. And we're seeing it. We see it all over the place. We're disconnected. We are destroying each other economically, militarily, in just about every way you could imagine. So that's the solution, is to find our way back to the unity of all of life. Sorry, I didn't mean to get into a sermon here, but that's my thought about it.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
I'm going to start my video. I'd love to hear some of the comments coming in from people. I see a lot of comments that come into the chat box. So I'm going to read some of them. Connie writes, Connie Baxter, who hosts one of the panels. We showed a little excerpt of that on Saturday night. Connie writes, Humanity's Team is doing the foundational work, bringing the science that shows us that we are one in a holographic fractal universe. Susan Bloomquist writes, there needs to be a way for wildlife to be represented in the decisions made by humans with machines that can cause harm. Yes, Susan, thank you. I had the good fortune before he died to get to know John Lilly, and he created the idea of the Cetacean Nation and actually tried to get the Cetacean Nation be acknowledged by the United Nations as a nation. Jeffrey Colbrick writes, thank you, Humanity's Team, for supporting the latest science from Nassim Harriman, the team at International Space Federation. Dr. Cat, also part of the International Space Federation team, writes, if you can't see God in all, you can't see God at all. That's a good one. Eleanor Troy writes, it's all so obvious, except when it's not. And a little more from Connie. She's talking about her panel. So you can watch her wonderful panel on the frequency of oneness and sacredness alignment with Dr. Phil, with Phil Lane Jr., Greg Campbell, Dr. Jude Caravan, who's amazing. I love Jude. I was actually on a Zoom with her this morning. And her husband, Connie's husband, Andrew. And that's going to be bringing indigenous and non-indigenous worldviews together. So thank you very, very much. see if there's okay. Scotty Satori is asking about the ballpark date for the Global Peace Tribe in Sedona. So I was planning on doing it around November the 12th. However, there's two big problems. Our good friend Omashar is going to Peru, and I cannot imagine a Global Peace Tribe retreat without Omashar there. It just, I tried to imagine it. I tried to see if we could work no, we've got to do it when Omashar is available. So there's that. I also, to be perfectly honest, have received multiple conversations with people that indicate that there could be a lot of very tense things going on in the United States shortly after the election. That's why we're doing a big unity show, is to help come back into unity. I talked to Shekinah Ma, one of the Twin Ray, for well over an hour yesterday, and she, along with others that I respect, have all suggested that being in Arizona the week after the election might not be the best choice. So the combination of Omashar being in Peru, he's really not going to be in the United States. He's like going to be in Peru. I'm looking at moving it to a little bit later. And so it'd be helpful to know if people would be okay if we move it to the very end of November or early December. So it's a good month away after the election. We'll know where everything stands. Things will have settled down. And most importantly, Omashar can be there with us. Interesting to notice, too, you might all recall that we did a show promoting the Interbeing Festival. And I was all planning to be in Asheville, North Carolina, staying with my friends Raju and Vineet, being one of the key presenters at the festival. And about a month ago, I just got the hit, Scott, you don't want to go. Don't go. And I don't know why, but I've learned to follow that little voice. Well, some of you may have heard there was a hurricane that hit Asheville. And obviously the Interbeing Festival did not take place. Raju and Vineet's home, by the way, was spared, although lots of trees down, power lines, no water, that kind of thing. So same thing, I just couldn't pull the trigger, I should use a different analogy, on dates for the Sedona retreat. I just wasn't getting that yes. So it's really just been the last couple of days that I was saying, okay, we're not going to do it then, we're going to do it later. The other option is to wait until the spring. Roger's saying, why not spring, too close to the holidays? So that is true. So if most of you can't do it in late November, obviously I would do it after Thanksgiving and before Christmas, obviously, in that little period of time there. Let me know. Let me know what you think is possible, and how many of you would be coming to Sedona if we do it in late November or early December between the holidays, and how many of you want to wait till the spring. It'd be very helpful to know that, okay? And thank you, Scotty Satori, for being good with anything. He is vibing warmer weather. This is true. Although Sedona is actually still usually pretty nice. Actually, I was there last November. I've been there in November a few times. It's actually a good month for it. So anyway, let me know what you all think. And I appreciate Susan and Connie are voting for spring. Sylvia is voting for late November, early December. So yeah, let me know, you guys. Listen, we can always do both. That's a possibility too. So put it in there. All right, let's go back and hear the remainder of what Neil and Steve have to say.
Of course, it's no, this is, and the world is coming together around this message. We'll talk about that. But first, let me just share, of course, we're coming out here this week from the end of the COP28 Dubai conference, right? So, which is all about climate change. And as we know, there's a lot of disappointment, as there have been coming out of these other COP conferences, where we're talking about, where we're in this level of consciousness. We haven't gone to a elevated level of consciousness, such as what Neil and I are talking about. We're in this separate level of consciousness. And no, you you stop this and you stop that and you stop this, and of course nothing is happening. we just aren't getting there, right? And this Einstein thing that was shared, there were so many things he shared way back when, but one of them that no problem can be solved at the level of consciousness that created it, which is bringing in then why Neil went on about this whole oneness and unity and diversity and unity thing, which is because when we go to that elevated consciousness that mystics described, and that now science everywhere is affirming, right? If we're paying attention, science is affirming this everywhere. So you don't even have to take it from mystics anymore. Just go follow the science. And where we understand that is the elevated consciousness, where we have awareness that, oh my God, like you said, there are fingers on a hand. There's diversity and unity, and then as we know too, Humanities Team, our calling, I'll call it, was to go down the path of education, because education is often the most powerful form of transformation, right? And so we work with the mediums, and we work with near-death experience community and the scientists and spiritual leaders, Neil and Michael Beckwith and others. And what we're finding here is, as they describe not only the physical life, but the non-physical life, mediums and near-death experience community, is in the non-physical realm. It is this perfect love and perfect light where Neil shares, this is what God is saying, yeah, that's what life is. And Neil says, well, that's too good to be true. And God says, well, if God can't tell you something too good to be true, who can, right? That this is what divinity is. It's your birthright. This is what you were born into. And so the beautiful thing is I think more and more people are awakening to this. And this, Neil, this is, boy, it was, for me anyway, maybe not for you, but back there in June 2003 and planning it, my family was young. My son actually took his first steps when we were in Wilsonville, Oregon. I missed that because I was in Wilsonville, Oregon with Neil.
You missed that because you were taking your first steps.
Yeah, right. And so it was challenging. And back then too, conscious living, awakening oneness and things we weren't as far along. But oh boy, thank God we seeded the soil with this wisdom, and that more and more people are understanding. And now it feels to me like one of the big issues is just living into that wisdom, where we're saying, okay, let me, fingers on a hand and divinity, and how do I live into that? And am I going to lose everything if I do? I think that as I'm doing programs more and more, that's kind of where people are coming from. Of, how can I do that? Maybe lean into that, stretch into that in a deeper way. Do you want to talk to that, Neil?
This is the secret here, Steve. You just hit upon the solution today. We need exemplars. We need imitators. We need people who are willing to be models of the understandings that have come to us in the conversations with God material and from all the world's really wonderful spiritual sources, all the positive messages that we've received. So we need Jeannie and Jacqueline and Gail and Louise and everyone who's with us here to say, not only am I going to support Humanities Team, not only am I in, not only will I be there with my energetic support, but I intend to move through the world in such a way that people see that I am modeling the behavior that can change the world. Just watch what I think, watch what I say, watch what I do, watch my actions, listen to my words. And when we have that level of commitment that people are saying, not only am I going to support Humanities Team in its endeavors, I'm going to be part of that endeavor on a personal level. As soon as I walk out of this house, as soon as I step outside, I intend to be a model of the message. Wow, I never put it that way before. What a nice alliteration. I'm going to be a model of the message of Humanities Team. The message, of course, we are all one. The message of our unity, the message of our oneness, not our sameness, just as Steve said. There is diversity in unity, but the message of our oneness. And I'm going to be a model of the message as soon as not only when I step out the door, when I'm walking around my house. Each day when I wake up, I have committed to be a model of the message. That's what we're asking today. Are you willing to be a model of the message in everything you think, say, and do? Now we're talking about an energy that can hit the world at a level of critical mass and change the planet's understanding.
Yes, indeed, indeed, indeed. And and as you and I go deeper into that conversation, often you'll bring around, as Conversations with God does as well, the Gandhi story of, well, what does that look like and how do we do that? And often you'll share that Gandhi story of, well, be the change that you wish to see in the world. What does that look like for you? What does that feel like for you? And I love that, because that really is that's the basis here. So for me, like I'll tell the story of back in Silicon Valley days where I had my my time management system, which I was really good at. Where I had all my tasks laid out and all the people that I'd interface with and I'd meet, and we'd go through 9 tasks, and so it was a very transactional way of living. And I realized as I was feeling into this whole awakening thing that I was not living at all congruent with what these new understandings were. And so I threw out my time management system. I'm not saying, by the way, everybody needs to do that. This is just me because of what was going on there in my life. I had to get rid of it because transactional and this whole divinity, I mean, you're just missing. There's no connection there. And so I threw it out. And oh my God, so many good things happened. And then I've often told the story of not only in the workplace, but at home, where transactional goes away and even relational goes away. Because divinity, which is our basis, that's even a more delicious thing than relational.
What I'd like to do, at the risk of interrupting you, Steve, is explain to everyone what Steve means by transactional. I understand we think that everyone understands that, but there are some people who don't understand what is he saying. We think we have a transactional relationship with God. In other words, a tit-for-tat relationship, a quid pro quo relationship. You do this, I'll do that. You do this, I'll do that. And we call that love, by the way. That's what we call love. I will love you if you do this for me. You have to worship me. You have to honor me. You have to believe in me. And in some religions even tell us, and you have to come to me in a certain and specific way. And if you don't come to me in that certain and specific way, then I will have nothing to do with you. I don't really care how kind you are, how generous you are, how understanding you are, how sensitive and caring you are. I don't even care how forgiving you are. I don't care how good you are as a person. You came through the wrong doorway. So you didn't come to me in the right way. Therefore, I'm going to have to send you to a place of eternal damnation. This is what Steve is calling a transactional relationship. This is how nations transact business with each other and how companies transact business with each other. And it's even how individuals transact their lives with each other. You know what? We don't even know how to love. Well, I shouldn't say we don't know, but many people do not know how to even love the person on the pillow next to you without stepping out of that transactional relationship, without saying, you know what, we don't need to have a transaction here. I love you whether you act with me the way I want you to or not. This is not a quid pro quo relationship. I don't love you if, I love you because of who you are and who I choose to be in relationship to who you are, and I need nothing back from you in return. Can we, folks, let that be our question for the day? Can we believe in a God? This is theologically revolutionary. Can we even imagine a God who says, I don't need anything from you. I don't demand anything from you. I don't expect anything from you. I require nothing from you, nothing at all. There's no such thing as the 10 Commandments. You made that all up. It's all made up. And you're not going to go to this place that you have called hell if you don't come to me through the right doorway. It's all manufactured. so that you have created a transactional relationship with God. But God said to me, Steve, Neil, my relationship with you is not a transaction. It's an expression of who I am. And who I am is pure, unconditional love. There's no transaction involved. I need nothing back from you for what I choose to give to you, because it's in the giving of my love to you that my greatest joy is experienced. Can we love the person on the pillow next to us in the same way? It is in the love that I give to you that my greatest joy is experienced. I need nothing in return. If we can just send that message and live into that message and be a demonstration of that message, model the message in the world could change overnight. I could, of course, be wrong about all of this.
Oh, that's a pretty funny little ending line. What do y'all think? Scotty Satori says, wow, I love him and them. Susan Woolridge reminds us that this is very similar to A Course in Miracles, learning to only see each other's holiness and innocence. Remember what Dr. Katz said earlier, if you cannot see God in all, you cannot see God at all. Connie has put into the chat box the teaser of what she has been doing. Karen, I read that you were also going to be at Interbeing Festival. I would have enjoyed being there with you next year, hopefully. And yes, prayers for our friends in Asheville. I have one more. I actually have three that I was going to play, but there's some really great things here, and I'm going to go with this one. No, actually, I'm going to save that one for another time. We are going to go with Teaching the Science and Health of Consciousness. And you'll see some familiar faces in this one as well. And then we'll conclude with a prayer, a couple of Global Peace Tribe announcements, and Om Shore's finale.
So, Anna Marie, talk to us about your pivotal moment.
Yeah, so when I started out, I always thought I could tell everyone to exercise because that's going to solve all your issues. And then I realized, wait, there's this thing with nutrition and how food impacts the body. So I was like, okay, we got to exercise and we have to eat healthy. And I was doing those things, but yet I still felt heavy and dense and I wasn't happy inside. And it wasn't until I started to get my mind right and started to what I call reprogramming my mind. And I couldn't really explain what was going on, but I started to feel things like come into my field, if you will. I always looked at energy when I was a kid. I could see it. And I would always talk to things. Everything was alive around me. And then I got made fun of for that. So I quickly shut that down. And once my grandfather passed away, the energy started to come to me again. I started to see different things. And as I started to continuously working with people through wellness, I started to see, it's almost like miraculous healing. All I can say is people started to heal in ways that I didn't notice before. It was like, almost like what we would call a placebo effect. But it was like this belief system that I had, and I would have people in front of me, and there was just a knowing of what was going on with them and the things that we could do to work with them to begin healing. And it really, that stuff all was coming in as I was healing myself. And I can't always put it into words, but ultimately it was the soul, the spiritual aspect of me started to change the biochemistry of me. And I didn't have to do all these very specific things that are tactile and, exercise and eating healthy, which are important, but I could literally change my biology by shifting my thoughts. And that was incredible to me. And I started working with people to do the same. And yeah, by the way, there's some other physical things we can do that will enhance all of that. But that's where I started to really pay attention that I'm not my thoughts, but I'm the one witnessing my thoughts. And there is some unexplainable energy that lives within all of us that can help our physical bodies heal. And that's kind of the transition of where I came from to my grandfather, to working with people, to witnessing things that I'm like, I don't even know how to explain this. And having just that faith and that knowing that we're all here for a reason. And I think this is a great conversation to have. So thank you so much for having me today.
Well, and thank you for being here. I knew when I had you on my podcast that I wanted other people to know about you, because the passion for the work that you do and the commitment is extraordinary. So I'm really grateful that you're here.
Thank you.
Rule, talk to us about your pivotal moment.
Yeah. Well, it literally was a pivotal moment. I'm a physicist by training. I've written many research papers. And one morning I woke up and I asked myself the question, whose life have I made better with my research? And I couldn't answer that question. I could point to companies who have benefited from my work. I can point to maybe the state of science that moved forward. But when it came to people, I could not answer that question. And then I realized, okay, so where is it that I'm having an impact? And the answer was clear. It was through my interaction with people. So then I really made a swift shift from my scientific work to professional development education, teaching classes like communication and ethics at an engineering college. But then at one point, I also thought, if I want to show up completely, if I want to show myself and also bring myself to my students, I also have to bring the spiritual part of me to my teaching. And that was sort of I must confess, a scary proposition to do that in an engineering environment. I started the class Science and Spirituality to give shape to that ambition. And that's what I've been doing for probably about 8 years now. But a pivotal moment was really asking myself the questions, whose life have I made better with my work? And not being able to answer that question.
Well, it's beautiful. I remember meeting you many years ago in one of the spirituality classes that I was teaching, and to witness your commitment and to act, we'll talk more about this, but to be with you in an environment that says engineering, and you're like heart, love. And it was like, whoa, this is very cool. So I'm very grateful that you're here.
Thank you.
And so you all, for me, I've had quite a life. I grew up on welfare, a lot of violence in my childhood. And my whole dream was get out of here. And so I've been an actress. I've been an airline hostess. I mean, if you look at my book, you'll think this girl could not figure out who she wanted to be, but I've always been spiritual. I come from a family of kind of prophetic dreamers and connected to spiritual realms. And as I went through some really interesting things in my life, challenging things in my life, I started noticing that I was the common denominator, that I was the one that was moving through all of these things. So I'm like, oh, wow, what about me changing me, shifting me? So that ended up, going through 2 master's programs in spiritual psychology and consciousness. And I really I kept asking in my meditations, because I've been meditating for 40 years, what am I here to do? And I kept hearing, you're here to awaken humanity to the truth of who they are. And so, those challenging moments and listening to that inner voice became my moving forward.
And I never know, I forget that they snip these things, but you're all enjoying, hearing from these wonderful people. And I can tell you the names. I apologize. To be honest, I was answering, I had my love coach Scott Cap on, and I was answering kind of an urgent text message from the client. Eleanor Joy writes, thanks, Scott, for the update. Cornflower has a special spot in my heart because he is the one who first got me up dancing 2 summers ago on August 20th. We should celebrate that. That should become like an anniversary. August 20th, Eleanor Joy starts the movement of dancing on the Awakening World. So thank you, Eleanor Joy, for that. And I want to also acknowledge Jeffrey Colebrook, because Reverend Jeffrey also was one of the first ones to get in and start dancing. And then the wild monk of the Mystic Monastery, Jerry Anderson, started dancing with us a lot. And of course, Adora, who always dances. And then now more and more, Lynn dances every time. So it's really been beautiful to watch how that all evolved. All right, a few quick announcements. Saturday night show is going to be a really good one. I'm going to bring it up. It's my co-host is Gary Malkin. And you know, Gary moved to Asheville just before the hurricane hit. He was actually staying with Raju and Vineet when the hurricane happened. He was not hurt, but he was impacted, obviously. And so he said, let's do a show on resilience. And I'm really grateful. Sue Morter is going to be with us live, not a video, but live. And Sue is extraordinary. She's a major, major celebrity in the kind of New Thought world. Gary's partner, Hope Fitzgerald, is going to join us. And we're going to conclude with a KES group healing with our beloved little Maggie, who's fantastic and quite a little dynamo. So that's going to be our show on Saturday night. I want to encourage people to still continue to support our friend Tarina Joy. I will put the link one more time into the chat box. She's still in Bulgaria, and it looks like she's going to need to stay there for quite some time. The road to her home that burned down in Ecuador is a mess. She doesn't even know what she could be coming home to. So it's a pretty rough situation. Let's still continue to support Tarina Joy. I'll put that in the chat box while Omashar is playing music. And I have a very special announcement. I'm going to put the spotlight on Omashar because as of today, Omashar is now officially a member of the Evolutionary Leaders Circle. So it is official.
It's amazing. I am honored beyond belief. It is so cool. It is such an honor, really. So I look forward to the first installment of what I'm going to produce as an evolutionary leader. Actually, it's probably the 91st installment. So thanks, Scott, for putting that forward. I really appreciate and love you.
Oh, well, we love you very much. And you've become such a big part of this bigger world, not just the Global Peace Tribe, but all of our different colleagues that we work with, Unity.
It's amazing. It's because all of it has not been predestined. Has been predestined, but it's just we have risen in frequency over the years to a place where we've just all symbiotically come together. There's been no I shall do lunch with your people and that sort of stuff going down. And so it's amazing how this is coming together. And for me, it's testament. It's my faith that the truth of us is coming together to fruition. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, brother.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Oh, so it's asking about Piper. Piper's watching the show on Facebook tonight.
Hi, Piper.
She's had a rough few days health-wise. Her energy level's been lower. But I texted with her today and she sent her love. And she said she'd be watching on Facebook, but she wasn't up for being on camera or being in the Zoom room tonight.
Yeah. So maximum grace, Piper. And did you find out who the woman doing the podcast, who's her name?
I will get it for you right now.
And,
that was, hold on one second. Okay, that was Cynthia James. Cynthia James was the host And the three people you saw were Dr. James Rouse, R-O-U-S-E, Roel Schneider, Dr. Anna Marie Frank, and hosted by Cynthia James. I'll put the link to that little segment if you want to watch it again into the chat box. There you go.
And also, dear Piper, there's about 10 in the chat box love transmissions to thee right now. So I'm just passing that on.
You know, people had asked for us to do prayer, and let's do that before your song, actually. Let's just take a moment. I'm going to go to gallery view, actually. And let's drop into prayer. Take a few deep breaths. Harness and channel your inner Christ consciousness, your inner Mary Magdalene, your inner Bugs Bunny, whatever your spiritual archetype might be. They're all God, all fingers of God, as Neil pointed out. And we are sending maximum grace to Piper. Maximum grace to Piper Dellups. Maximum grace to beloved Dorina Joy in Bulgaria. Maximum grace to all those impacted by the hurricanes. Maximum grace to the people in Gaza, in the Middle East. Maximum grace to the people in Ukraine. And one more time, maximum grace to our 80th birthday friend, Dia Therese. Maximum grace to Dia Therese. Bless us all. And Omashar, take it away, brother.
Close my eyes, only for a moment, and a moment's gone. All my dreams pass before my eyes, a curiosity, dust in the wind. All they are is dust in the wind. Water in an endless sea. All we do crumbles to the ground, though we refuse to see. Dust in the wind. All they are is dust in the wind. Dust in the wind.
Wow. What a great cover of that song. That was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Good job, Omashar. Beautiful. Wow. We're so blessed to have Omashar. Of course, he's an evolutionary leader. Of course. Hey, here's one more time the link put into the chat box for Darina Joy. And for those of you watching on Facebook, please do support her. It's really easy to find it. If you just go to GoFundMe, we've raised $1,237. And look at all those people that are Global Peace Tribers that have been donating. Thank you, Susan, who's in our room right now. She was just dancing with us. And yeah, let's help Darina. Let's help her. Let's continue that on. More prayers, more green money, green energy. Green money too. Okay. All right. I love each and every one of you. I'm so grateful for this Global Peace Tribe. And I hope to all see you on Saturday night. Spread the word. Let's grow this. More people need to be. The one thing that drives me crazy is we'll have these great shows and there should be more people here. Please tell your friends. Let's grow this tribe, all right? People need to know what we get to talk about every week. The rising consciousness, the awakening world that we are all a part of. So thank you, everybody. Let's practice seeing the divinity in all. And I look forward to seeing you on Saturday night and then again on Sunday morning. Remember, Sunday morning at 8 a.m., Kat has a really lovely meditation group. It's free to join. Join me. I'll be there. And then at 10 o'clock, I'll see you with Danny Sheehan and all the people he's lined up. Thanks again to Alan Steinfeld for his contributions and always to you, beloved Omashar. Take care, everybody. Good night.